What could happen to student debt if Trump becomes president again? Student debt is the money people borrow to pay for college. College can be expensive, so a lot of students take out loans, which means they borrow money they have to pay back later. Some people are still paying off their student loans even years after they finished school. Right now, many people in the U.S. owe money for college, and paying it back can be really hard for some. When Donald Trump was president from 2017 to 2021, he made some changes that affected student loans. If he becomes president again, he might make more changes. Some people think these changes could make it harder for students to get help with paying back their loans. Let's talk about what Trump did with student loans during his first time as president and what it could mean if he's president again. 1. How Trump made it harder for some students to get debt relief. When students take out loans, they're expected to pay them back, but sometimes students might go to a college that does something dishonest. For example, some schools might say they have special programs or promise that graduates will get great jobs, even if those things aren't true. When a school tricks students like this, those students may want to cancel their debt because they didn't get what the school promised. There's a rule called borrower defense to repayment that was made to help students who were tricked by their schools. Before Trump was president, this rule allowed students to get their loans forgiven if their school was found guilty of misleading them. But during Trump's time, his Department of Education, led by Secretary Betsy DeVos, changed this rule. They made it harder for students to qualify to get their debt forgiven if they felt their school tricked them. They had to prove it was the school's fault, which was tough. Also, if students did get approved, they didn't always get all of their debt forgiven. Instead, the government might only forgive part of it. So, let's say someone had a loan for $10,000, but the government thought the school's lies only caused half the trouble. That student might only get $5,000 forgiven, so they'd still owe $5,000. Some people think this was unfair because students went to these schools expecting to get good jobs and pay back their loans. When that didn't happen, they felt they should get more help. But Trump's team said they wanted to protect taxpayers' money and stop people from taking advantage of forgiveness programs.
2. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness (PSLF) program. There's another type of forgiveness called Public Service Loan Forgiveness (PSLF). This program forgives loans for people who work in public service jobs, like teachers, firefighters, or government workers. The idea is that these jobs help the community, so the government wants to help these workers with their student loans. If they make payments for 10 years, they could qualify to have the rest of their loan forgiven. But the program is complicated, with a lot of rules. A lot of people who applied for this forgiveness found out they weren't eligible because they didn't meet all the specific requirements. Trump's administration proposed ending this program altogether. They thought the money could be better spent on other things. But many people felt this program was really important, especially for people in lower-paying public service jobs who have big loans. -3. Trump's opinion on Biden's loan forgiveness plan. President Biden, who is president now, had a plan to forgive some student debt to help people after the COVID-19 pandemic, when a lot of people were struggling financially. Biden's plan aimed to forgive up to $20,000 in student loans for many people. But the Supreme Court, which is like the highest court in the country, stopped Biden's plan, saying it couldn't happen. Trump agreed with this decision. He even celebrated it, saying that forgiving student debt in this way wasn't fair. He thought it would be unfair to people who had already paid off their loans and to those who never took out loans at all. Trump felt that this plan was a way for politicians to get more votes from young people by promising to take away their debt. He and his supporters believe that people should be responsible for paying back what they borrow, no matter what. -4. What could happen if Trump is president again? Right now, we don't know exactly what Trump would do if he became president again, but we can guess based on what he said and done before. During this campaign, Trump has talked about possibly getting rid of the Department of Education altogether. The Department of Education is the part of the government that handles student loans and supports education in America. If Trump tries to shut down the Department of Education, it might mean there would be fewer programs to help students with their loans. Programs like Plan B, which Biden's team is working on to help 30 million people with student debt, could be stopped if Trump's administration doesn't agree with it. They could decide not to support new rules that Biden's team is trying to set up to help more people get forgiveness for their student loans. 5. What's going on with student debt right now? Right now, the Biden administration has been trying to help people with student debt. They've already canceled around $175 billion in student loans through different programs. But there's still a lot of debt out there, about $1.7 trillion in student loans that Americans owe. Even though Biden has helped a lot of people with their loans, there are other plans still in progress or facing challenges in court. Some of these plans are still being decided on, which means they might not become permanent or might take a while to go into effect. This situation creates a window where, if Trump becomes president, he could stop these new plans before they fully go into effect. He might decide not to support them or could change how they work. In conclusion, what might a second term mean for borrowers? If Trump is elected president again, it's possible that student loan forgiveness programs could be limited or harder to get. Based on what Trump has said and done, he believes people should work to pay off their own debts and that large forgiveness programs might not be fair. He might try to remove some programs, like those that help people who work in public service or those affected by schools that were dishonest. If you're a student or someone with student loans, these changes could make it harder to get help with paying off your debt. It's important to pay attention to what candidates say about student debt and think about how their plans might affect you or your family in the future. How student debt relief works. What Trump's presidency could mean for the future of student debt. If Trump becomes president again, he may make changes that could affect people with student loans. We've already seen some of his views on debt relief. He's been critical of large forgiveness programs, like the one President Biden tried to create, and has even considered removing the Department of Education. This could make it harder for people to get help with their loans, especially if programs are reduced or removed. Here's what could happen if Trump returns to the White House. 1. Fewer forgiveness programs. Some people worry that programs like public service loan forgiveness and income-driven repayment plans might be limited or changed. Trump's administration already made it tougher for some borrowers to get forgiveness before, so it's possible he might do so again. This could mean fewer chances for people to have their loans forgiven. 2. A focus on personal responsibility. Trump believes borrowers should be responsible for repaying their loans. He thinks that people who take out loans should pay them back without relying on forgiveness programs. This could mean that his policies will focus on making people pay off their debts over time, without much government help. 3. potential legal and political challenges. If Trump tries to remove or reduce debt relief programs, there may be legal challenges. Many people support these programs and think they're necessary to help people succeed after college. It's possible that Trump's changes could face pushback from other leaders, groups, and even the courts. 4. Uncertainty for new and current borrowers. People who are thinking about college or who are currently paying off loans might feel uncertain about what to expect. They may not know if programs that are available now will still be there in the future. In the end, a lot depends on who is in charge of education policy and what they believe about debt relief. Student loans are a big issue, and a president's policies can make a big difference in whether borrowers get the help they need. For now, it's important to stay informed, pay attention to any changes in the law, and plan ahead if you're thinking about borrowing for college.